Inside the massive boardroom, the Supreme Commander was busy reaming out several of their sub-commanders about the situation. The sub-commanders were basically begging for mercy when not standing there at attention. They worried that the Supreme Commander would have them taken out back and executed for what has been happening. The Supreme Commander continued to scream about how human subjugation should have been over a decade ago in their time. Yet, for some reason, humanity is still around and still fighting. Why? They control the planet Sol 3. They control the entire sector. And yet they still keep finding a whole bunch of humans showing up just like cockroaches. They will just show up and attack and take what they want and then disappear into the darkness of space before anybody even knows what's going on. By the time the first call goes out, the battle is over. The Supreme Commander screeched about how they can simply lose to a species that had barely been able to break the own atmosphere of their planet, and yet was able to steal several of their ships, make it off their world, and now is causing havoc in every sector around. And yet they can't seem to find it with their massive army. The sub-commander, one that was not begging for his life, stated how the humans would not fight them straight up. They would not go muzzle to muzzle like you would expect. In most space combat, large fleets lined up with each other and then fired through space itself with as many weapon systems as possible, volley firing, hoping to hit something, as on each side every ship maneuvered itself to try and minimize its own incoming fire. But the humans did not fight this way. The Supreme Commander wanted answers. The sub-commanders turned to him, and each of them had a report. The first one came up. Sir, on Josus 9, the humans were in the dirt, and we did not find them. They simply came up out of the dirt like reanimated corpses. What does that have to do with your failure, Sub-Commander? Sir, it frightened our soldiers so much they didn't react in time. The humans took the entire world from us. But they did not control the world. Start making more sense, Sub-Commander. There was no survivors, only a few recordings. They took all the resources and left a few, what? A few traps for us, sir. This shouldn't be anything for our engineers to not handle. These were not simple traps, sir. What? Then what was the reason you could not retake the population center? Sir, there wasn't a population center to take. And then the industrial center, when we tried to start up the machines, they exploded. Oh, a simple small explosion is no excuse, Sub-Commander. Sir, these were atomic explosions. This made everyone pause, as this was the first time the Supreme Commander was actually hearing about this. Atomic explosions. But they're simple apes. How could they possibly... Never mind. That is only one time. You should have adjusted yourselves. Of course, Commander. Supreme Commander, the next time we met with the humans, it was actually out in space. We believed that we could figure out where they were, and then they suddenly disappeared. We couldn't find them. What do you mean they disappeared? They went into the asteroid field, and we thought we could simply chase them. We chased at least 24 of them, and we sent in several of our destroyers, but then all of a sudden communications was lost. We sent in more and more, and communications kept ending. We would see flashes of light. We knew there was a battle. We knew they found them. We figured they had gotten them all eventually. And then we moved our own ships, our own flagship right above. Sir, as you know, only 2 ships survived. Why? Tell me, what did they do? They ambushed us, sir. That's what they call it. They came out of every single crack, Along with that, they had put some sort of engines on the rocks themselves and crashed them into our ships. Before our sensors even realized what was going on, they had shot these giant rocks into the hulls, causing most of the ships to tumble out of place and start smashing into other rocks in the asteroid field. Without proper control, they were simply crushed and then exploded. You're telling me your fleet was beaten by stones, by rocks, by apes throwing rocks? This is as bad as them throwing their feces at you. Ugh. I'm. Have you adjusted for this? Yes, sir. We have. Sir, Supreme Commander, the next one is of note. As you know, the first instance where they were hiding under the mud and they jumped up at us, many of our own people knew that they would do this, so they had their heads facing down, looking down towards the ground as they moved through the forested area on Schneider 5. Schneider 5 and 4 are both forest worlds, and we believe that they were using the roots to hide in. So you found them? No, sir, they found us. They fell from the trees. What? They fell on us from the trees, sir, before anyone could even use radio communications. They drove their metal spikes into us, and many of our people were done before they could even scream. How? What? Yes, sir. As you know, I withdrew my soldiers to the main areas, the main condensed areas, and well, we waited. We waited for an attack. We had everything ready, but they never showed up. But every time we sent out a patrol, we started looking around. We didn't know they were coming from the trees until we got one small video clip, one moment. And within that one moment, we saw, well, it was a foot, sir. A foot? Yes, and it was coming down onto the camera itself. And then you heard the sound of bones crunching as the mass of the human fell on them. Humans are using their own body weight as weapons. Yes, sir, it seems that way. But the fact that the humans weigh so much, over almost 100 kilos, it is enough that they will crush one of our soldiers just by landing on them. I know of this. Why? Why have we not stopped them already? We already knew how dangerous they could be. Why haven't you hunted them down? Why didn't you just blow up all the trees? Why didn't you just burn it all down? We did, sir. What? Then why didn't you take the planet? Sir, we did take the planet, but our losses were grievous. Why were your losses grievous? Well, sir, you saw that when we saw the humans running from the forest, we sent in our own people to stop them. Our aerial devices were immediately shot out of the sky by anti-air missiles we did not see, and then as we ran through, we realized that we had run into a minefield. And as soon as everything started exploding, they started lobbing other explosives towards us over the trees and over the hills. And then I tried to pull everyone back. And, sir, please do not look at me worse that I have failed the mission. But after 93% losses, I gave up on the planet and saved what I could. You still abandon your post on something so trivial? These are simple apes. Why is it so hard? Well, sir, I believe I have an answer for this, as we have received small bits of communication from the humans, and it seems as though they take great pleasure in one simple aspect. And what would that be? Well, sir, um, the fact that we always yell something once we realize that we have ended up surrounded and attacked. We yell one phrase that the humans seem to find hilarious, and this is why they use the tactics they use. Not only because they're effective, but for some reason, the humans find great thrill in the fact that it doesn't matter what species of our combination they have, they simply laugh whenever we yell the last thing we ever yell. It's a trap!